All right, if you've ever had to set up manufacturing resources in a system like Microsoft Dynamics, you know there's this fork in the road, and it can cause a ton of confusion. So today, we're going to clear all that up. We are going to break down the real difference between work centers and machine centers, all to help you build a smarter, more efficient manufacturing setup. Okay, let's just dive right in. So this is the big question, isn't it? It's the one that seems to plague manufacturing planners and ERP users just about everywhere. And look, it sounds simple, but the choice you make between these two, well, it has these huge ripple effects on how you schedule, track, and manage your entire production floor. And seriously, don't think this is just some little niche technical detail. No way. This is a universal challenge. It doesn't matter if you're running a small shop or a massive plant. Structuring your resources the right way is absolutely fundamental to getting the most out of your system. And this is why it matters so much. A bad setup doesn't just create a few minor headaches. It can make your entire system feel clunky, frustrating, and just counterintuitive. As our source material puts it, it can become hard to work with. And that is the last thing you want from a tool that's supposed to make your life easier, right?
So, how do we dodge that bullet? How do we avoid that clunky, frustrating system? Well, to get this right, we've got to understand the structure first. I want you to think of it like a puzzle. There are a few key pieces, and once you see how they fit together in this hierarchy, believe me, everything starts to click into place.
So the foundational piece of our puzzle is the work center. This is your core production unit. It's not always a single machine. It could be a whole assembly area with 10 people, or maybe a group of 4 identical extruders. It's simply the where the operation happens. And this slide, it lays out the whole hierarchy for us perfectly. At the very top, you've got work center groups. Think of these as just folders for organizing, like a department. Right below that is our main player, the work center. And then, and this is the key part, optionally, you can break it down even further into individual machine centers. And that optional third step, well, that's where all the choices and all the confusion really come from. So based on that hierarchy, you basically have 3 main paths you can take. We're going to walk through each one step by step, so you can figure out which setup is the absolute best fit for your specific operations. Okay, let's start with the most common approach, the one we're calling the simple group. And as the name suggests, this setup keeps things really clean by just ignoring machine centers completely. Here, we're only using work centers. The absolute key here is one word: interchangeability. If you have a group of machines that all do the exact same thing, or a team of employees who can all handle the same exact tasks, this is almost always going to be the right choice for you. You know, this setup is both simple and incredibly powerful. You just define a work center, let's call it extruding, and you set its capacity to 4, because you have 4 identical extruders. The system then knows it can schedule 4 jobs there at the same time. This creates a single shared task list. Your operators just walk up and grab the next job in the queue. It's beautifully efficient, and as the source material points out, this is often all you really need. All right, let's move on to option 2, which kind of builds on that first one. We'll call this the flexible team. Now we're introducing machine centers, but in a very specific and, I have to say, very useful way. This is where we start to get a little more granular. This is perfect for that in-between scenario. Your machines are still very similar, they can all do the same kind of work, but maybe you need the visibility to schedule and track work on each specific machine, maybe for maintenance reasons, or maybe to track an operator's efficiency. So with this setup, the work center's total capacity is just the sum of its individual machine centers, and this gives you the best of both worlds. A planner can look and see the total load on the entire cutting department, but they can also drill down and see the specific task list for cutter A and for cutter B. They can even schedule a job at the high level for the work center, and then later on move it or assign it to a specific machine. It's this really great balance of a high-level overview and that fine-tuned granular control. And that brings us to our most detailed option, the specialist's crew. If the first option was all about simplicity and the second was about flexibility, well, this one is all about specificity. This is where we really embrace the full power of machine centers as totally independent units. So when would you use this? You use it when you have machines in the same area that are not interchangeable. They each perform different specialized tasks, but they're logically grouped together. You can think of a production cell, where one machine feeds parts directly to another one. In this situation, the work center is really just a container. It's there for organizational purposes. Each machine center, like the grinder and the 2 molders in the example, has its own separate calendar, its own capacity. You have to schedule directly against the specific machine because they can't do each other's jobs. A job for the grinder cannot be done on a molder, period. And while this adds a layer of complexity, it's absolutely necessary when your machines have different costs or capabilities. Plus, it does simplify some of the setup, since the machines can inherit things like shop calendars from their parent work center.
Okay, so we've looked at the three main options. Now let's put the core concepts right next to each other, side by side, to really nail down the differences and get to our final takeaway.
This table sums it up so neatly. You can see the pattern, right? Work centers are the parents, and machine centers inherit stuff from them, things like their calendars and financial dimensions. The big functional wins you get with machine centers are the ability to default values, like scrap percentage or setup times, which saves a ton of data entry, and that really powerful move task functionality we talked about. Work centers, on the other hand, are much more self-contained and, generic. And that brings us to what might be the single most important piece of advice from our source material. After exploring all this complexity, the author, Olaf Simran, leaves us with this powerful reminder: simplicity is king. While machine centers definitely have their place, that simple, single-level work center setup, that's often all you need. Don't add complexity unless you have a crystal clear business reason and a real, tangible benefit. So, the final question I want to leave you with is this one. Take a hard look at your own system. Is the way you've structured your resources genuinely adding value and clarity to your process, or is it just adding unnecessary complexity? The answer to that question will tell you if you're on the right path.